let's have a look at April 22nd, the New York Jewish Week, talking about the joy of six. Talking about the wav, he means wav. The Hebrew letter wav, which is thought to represent six, which is random, but in the Hebrew rabbinical numerical system, they just made the W or the wav represent six. Now, in Leviticus 25:10, you see he says, "The Jubilee year returns Jews to their land. You shall return." Very important. Tashuvu. Tashuvu. Which I would contest that means return. Because he goes on to say the Zohar. Now the Zohar, what's the Zohar? That's the Book of Splendor. That's a Kabbalistic work. That's the foundations of the Kabbalah, which contains all the Jewish Gnostic, mystic. It's kind of a distillation of all the Jewish Gnosticism that was around for 1500 years, and it involves, of course, all the Platonic ideas, all the ideas of Greek philosophy. It's just like Gnosticism, a syncretization of paganism and Bible teachings. But here we go. I mean, the gematria. Anyway, the gematria numerical value of Tashuvu is 708. Now, even if there was a consistent system of gematria, anyway, they've just said that this points to 1948 being the return, the year of the return of the Jews to Israel. Rabbi Blech notes that the missing wav, corresponding to the number 6, perhaps alludes to the missing 6 million. Now, this missing 6 million has been around long before Adolf Hitler. And all you've got to do is look at past editions of the New York Times, where Gentile countries have always been accused of being about to or in the process of murdering 6 million Jews. Now, I don't know why I'm missing W. Well, it puts you in a real I mean, they've got all this mystical stuff going on. From my vantage point, Tashivu is written without the wav to hint at the fact that in 1948, when we reclaimed the land of Israel, we were missing Jerusalem and Hebron, the heart and soul of the Jewish people. We returned to the old city in Hebron in 1967 during the 6-day war. See vav from yeah, and they've got this thing going on with the that the Jews won't he quotes Rabbi Kook. I mean, Rav. Notice Rav Kook instead of Rabbi, because they're in the habit of pronouncing a B as a V, which is actually not which is important for the subsequent discussion. Yeah, well, let's get serious for a moment. Let's consult the it's called the Polyglot, the Competencian Polyglot, published in around 1500 by in Spain by Cardinal Jimenez. And yeah, it was there was part of a quite a stir back then, well, there's this ongoing speculation whether Humanus was trying to beat Erasmus to publishing a Greek New Testament. Anyway, here we are in the the chapter 25. Now the competency polyglot actually had chapter 25 here had it had the Hebrew Bible along with the Latin translation, the Greek Septuagint translation along with the interlineal Latin, and curiously enough, the Chaldean and the Latin translation of the Chaldean. Now, the Chaldean is known these days as the Aramaic. Now, Chaldean, the Chaldean language used to be, the Babylonian language found in the Targums and in parts of the book of Daniel and the book of Ecclesiastes. That is actually Babylonian, the Semitic language spoken by the Babylonians in Mesopotamia. It's become trendy to call it Aramaic. Well, Syriac, the Syriac language is a later development of the Babylonian. Because the Babylonian became the empire, the Babylonian became the language of the Babylonian Empire, and it was retained, and the Jews and everyone else around them, like in Syria, kept on speaking the Babylonian language after the Persians and after the Greeks, and after the Romans. Anyway, it's actually should be called, it's called Chaldean here, but anyway, let's quickly consult the Hebrew text of Leviticus 25:10. Let's just look at early on in the chapter. The seventh year, if you consult the Latin, seventh year will be to the land a rest to the Lord, which it actually says it will be to the earth a Sabbath, Shabbat, and to Jehovah Seder, a sitting. Okay, it's restated. Now, this is the idea of the year of Jubilee becoming the year of Jubilee being a year of when the land lies fallow, now this unfortunately there's this idea, like from very early on, like here, even the Latin in the 16th century, the Hebrew gets translated revertetur, you will return, hoc, each man to his possession. Now, now this the verb here is actually this is this famous verb here, this 4-letter phrase, which by the rabbis is pronounced tashuvu, because there's a missing, because they talk about the missing wav, because the missing wav is what it all hangs on, because it's because you see that it's not there, and they've insisted that there should be a wav there, and they've even gone and used the pointings. There's three little dots. Says that it's pronounced tashuvu. Which is strange, because there isn't actually a wav there. Now this missing wav is actually the source of a great deal of mythology, as you can see, as you've seen before. Now, it's obviously missing. I mean, missing is missing. I mean, was it ever meant to be there? That's the question. I've said before, to put a pointings, to put a defective script, to put pointings, to actually add vowels to a script that is written without vowels is inherently an editorial act. And this is my problem ultimately with the Masoretes, is they have basically edited the Hebrew text and given it the meaning that they wanted to. And this is a good example, because this means basically to the land, to the patrimony, it will be arrest. That's like Shabbat, see? That's the there's yeshab, the Hebrew verb yeshab, to sit down. Now, they've tried to mangle it and make it into something to return, and they've even built a whole theology on the fact that the wav is missing and you can't do that. But you see, yeah, people. Let's have prove my point. I just want to have a look at this guy called Elias Riggs. Elias Riggs, in 1832, you can see, on or about 1832, he prepared a manual of the Chaldee language. Chaldee, okay, very important. Containing a Chaldee grammar, chiefly from the German of Professor G.B. Weiner. A Christomathy, consisting of selections of the Targums, and including the Targums, okay, the Targums, and including the whole of the biblical Chaldee, with notes and a vocabulary, or with an appendix of the rabbinical character and style. Because, as we know, a great deal of rabbinical writings is written in what is called Aramaic, what's called these days Aramaic, what used to be called Chaldean. And you can buy books, or you can download them from archive.org, books, where you can learn, well, here, you can learn the Aramean language. The Aramean, one of the grand divisions of the Semitic or Oriental languages, comprises two principal subdivisions: the Syriac, sometimes called by the way of distinction West Aramean, and the Chaldee or East Aramean. Now, so basically, my point I'm trying to make is it's the myth of Aramean. You see, the West Aramean, or the Syriac, is only attested from the 1st century. This Syriac, which is like the Aramaics, spoken and discussed in the New Testament. But you can buy a Syriac copy. You can purchase and read Syriac copies of the New Testament, which and there are very, very old manuscripts, which and it's called the Peshitta. Now, the Peshitta is the language of the people of basically the Damascus region. Now, my point is, as you can see, Elias Riggs is of the opinion that Aramaic, the term Aramaic, basically means Babylonian. The appropriate regional letter was the province of Babylonia, between the Euphrates and the Tigris. The original inhabitants of which related in respect to their origin to the Hebrews and the Syrians, and who should not be confounded with the Chaldeans, a tribe which occupied that region much later. Well, my point is, this is the whole. This, for example, this introduction puts its finger. Well, it's an example of the confusion. You see, the Chaldeans, Chaldaos, originated, as is evident from a comparison of the statements of Greek authors, particularly Xenophon, with those of the Bible in the mountains of Armenia, partly overcome by the Syrians. They removed to the plains of Mesopotamia and especially Babylonia in the 7th century BC. Now, these Chaldeans this was a name that the Greeks gave to the Babylonians. The Aramean is a Semitic language, and the Chaldeans is just a mistake, because the Greeks identified the Chaldeans with just the Babylonians generally, which you can read in the Greek Septuagint. But the word found is the word actually encountered in the Hebrew Bible is chesedim. Now, well, it's actually a chesedim. Now, it's curious that they use the word chesedim, and now you hear in our latter days of Hasidic Jews, which is curious. But whenever the book of Daniel talks about the Chaldeans in English, or the Chesedim in Hebrew, it's talking about the priests of Baal, basically the astrologers, the sorcerers, the prognosticators, the fortune tellers, all those sorts of people are called Chesedim in the Hebrew. Now, the current state of the Aramean language, Riggs discusses here. Though the Aramean, as spoken by Jews, partook somewhat of the Hebrew character, no entire or very important corruption of it took place, and to this circumstance alone the Babylonians are indebted for the survival, or at least a partial preservation of their language, which even in the mother country has, since the spread of Islamism, been totally extinct. So, the Aramaic language, the Chaldean language, was largely replaced by Arabic. Now, uh, and anyway, my point is that this is the fact is that the Chaldean is in fact the Targums, rabbinic literature, there's even like Kabbalistic works, the Zohar, are written in what is called which is what is called Aramaic, but it means Chaldean, and that means Babylonian. Okay. Now, the Hasidic Jews, who curiously enough have a very similar name to the Hasidim of the book of Daniel, you read, the Kabbalah is the archetypal work of Babylonian religion. It is the distillation of Gnostic, pagan, syncretic literature, and it is written in Aramaic, or it is written in Babylonian. Okay, and the Hasidic Jews are from Babylon. They are of Babylonian extraction, and they speak a Babylonian language, and they practice a Babylonian religion. Okay. Now, why is this important? This is important because the book of Revelation discusses my point is, if you look at this photograph, this is pretty typical of what Babylon is. This is literally Babylon. Okay, this is where the great city used to be. What is it? It's a pile of ruins in the middle of the desert in Iraq, and no one goes there. Some buses of tourists come and look around, but no one looks there. No one goes there. No one lives there. It hasn't been inhabited for thousands of years. And let's just consult. Let's consult Jeremiah the prophet. Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babel shall be astonished, and hiss at all her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babel round about, all ye that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord. So basically, Jeremiah the prophet prophesied condemnation of Babel, and it would be destroyed and never again be inhabited, which is pretty much what happened. And so, but my point is, that's literal Babylon. Now, in the New Testament, at least, and in the prophets, there's this other meaning, this other sense of Babylon, and this Babylon, metaphorical Babylon, or as the book of Revelation calls it, Mystery Babylon. And if you'll read the book of Revelation, chapter 17, so he carried me away into the wilderness in the spirit, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-coloured beast, full of names of blasphemy, which had 7 heads and 10 horns, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and gilded with gold and precious stones and pearls, and had a cup of gold in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And in her forehead was a name written, a mystery, very important, a mystery, Great Babylon. That means that means metaphorical Babylon. That means Babylon in code, a place, a topos, a political power, an earthly city. This means a present day. In our latter days, it means a city that is metaphorical Babylon, a mystery, a code, a cryptogram, a mystery, Great Babylon, the mother of whoredoms and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great marvel. Now, these, as I was saying, the Jews, well, the so-called Jews, these Hasidic Jews are they as well as the Freemasons, all the Freemasons who practice Kabbalism, and the Jesuits, or at least the Jesuits, all the Catholics, and basically who follow the Jesuitical practices at least, because the Jesuitical practices are from Kabbalistic origin. And my point is that you see, these Jews are of Babylonian ancestry. They speak Babylonian. They practice the Babylonian religion. They're not Jewish. Moreover, Freemasons are devotees of the same Babylonian religion as are the Jesuits and the Catholics, at least. And as I said, I've proved before that the you can demonstrate that